whether it's to yourself or others, but people that do have a hard time expressing themselves feel the shame of that, right? And that starts to really compound. So when we can't express here, again, the shame lives a little bit more in our center and in our core, in our manipura. I'm wrong. My identity and my very being in this body and the core of myself is wrong. That's shame. Hey there, Heartmind fans and friends, family. I am so glad to be on for another episode. And I'm transitioning this week and only going to do one solo episode, a longer episode on the theme. I just interviewed Laura Phelan Shaheen, and she is an amazing healer in our community here in Arcata, California. Although I think she serves mostly people in San Francisco online, and she is an expression arts therapist. And so our theme this week is expression. I'm so excited to have talked to her, and I have experienced one of her sessions. It was incredible. It was just an incredible confirmation of my own healing and really important to solidify all the work I've done up to now to heal my own trauma and my own family dynamics and ancestry. So I highly recommend expression therapy alongside obviously yoga therapy. And I am a creative and artist at heart, which I believe all humans have the creative capacity, and that's what it's about. We talk about this greatly in her episode, is expressing yourself creatively in various forms and finding the ways that make you really connected. It might not always be comfortable, but connected and able to move. That's the important thing, whether it's move emotionally through visual arts, move emotionally through dance, but moving material. We need to keep moving. Nature wants us to move, and we're going to talk about that, how movement is expression. And again, it doesn't have to be physical movement, but often it can be involved as well, physical movement. So let's dive into the solo session about expression. I am going to grab my cuppa. If you are in an environment where that would be great for you too, go ahead and pour yourself a cup of tea and enjoy a little bit of conversation with me. You can make it a conversation by commenting. I love comments. I try to get to them as soon as I can, whether it's just a little love heart or whether it's giving some feedback if you have some questions as you journey through. So let's sit down. I'm going to take a nice deep breath as we begin. And I invite you to do the same again if you are in an environment where you can, closing your eyes and taking that sweet deep breath. Hmm. Awesome. So, we're going to talk about healing, healing through expression. And how we know we need to heal through expression is when we feel, again, stuck, but which we can often feel stuck in many different ways. But when we feel a bit frozen and we're unable to move something. And again, this could show up as not really able to move a part of your body physically. You feel like you're not able to maybe move emotionally. Uh, it could show up as feeling really not being able, or that freeze moment of I don't know what to say, I don't know how to move. If it's like on the dance floor, I don't know how to do it, and there's just this big blank block. You know what I often meet too sometimes with people that are blocked, sometimes they have this really limiting belief that they don't have the ability to imagine, don't have the ability to have a mind's eye. Let me tell you, my belief and having worked with people through this, everyone has a mind's eye. Of course, some people have an overwhelming ability and visualization ability that's natural and flowing, and there's lots of energetic reasons for that in yoga, but we all have access to it. It's part of our makeup, it's part of our system, and it's something, a function of your mind body system that you have. And it might be harder for you to access it, but you have it. All right. So the chakra, and again, chakras are energetic centers for prana or life force that's within your biology, but it's psychic energy as well, is held there, center in that center of your being. And it's aligned from the earth up through the sky, through the central axis, through your spine, but it goes out from there into the rest of your body and around you. So the chakra of expression is actually at the throat. So oftentimes when we feel a lack of expression or we are traumatized to the point where we are frozen and stuck in our nervous system, frozen and stuck in our heart, it gets cut off here. And sometimes that means, again, we don't develop a sense of connecting our imagination to the lower chakras, and the lower chakras aren't connecting up into the spiritual realm either. So we're cut off here. It's funny because it's the opposite of, in some ways, you've seen maybe a lot of Hindu gods where they do cut off the head on purpose because there's this dichotomy of the head being oppressive to the heart and to the rest of the body. But this one is the cutoff that is actually self-induced through trauma that is creating a lack of expression and a lack of self-identification that can be very healthy and healing to feel secure and feel like you are in this lifetime safe. And not only safe, but here to thrive and create and contribute to your society and to your world. That's why we're here, right? To further progress. Okay. So the this is the fifth chakra is deeply connected to the third chakra, um, to our fire. And sometimes I put creativity in our fire, our self-identity, the ego, the part of ourselves that uh, drives us forward and is very ambitious for our being, and maybe for the if it's deeply connected to the rest of the chakras in our alignment, ambitious for the human race, for example. And there's this pathway of prana that runs up from the manipura, up from the fire, from the gut, up through the heart and out through the throat, and that's Udana Vayu. So it's a pathway for prana to come and be expressed. And again, maybe it's literal physical trauma. I know I have, and others have worked with this sense of either being literally this feeling of being choked or having some big obstruction, literally closing the throat. It and feels like it's tough to speak, it's tough to swallow, it's tough to breathe. Ugh. Then the udana, which allows energy to come up and out and be expressed in the world, gets closed off. And that flow doesn't happen easily. It doesn't move. Remember? So we're moving from freeze to movement over time as we heal through expression. And part of that is allowing yourself to sit in spaces where others are expressing and or there's a modicum of pressure for you to express. And that could be for some people, that modicum of pressure could be, your therapist, your guide asking you to sit in a room and journal. I've seen that lots of times. I just don't know what to say. I can't. That's more confronting for some people than a dance floor at the local club, whereas someone else might be the dance floor at the, Five Rhythms dance or local club, whatever it is, that they cannot do, but journaling they could do all day long. But you want to find the place where you feel a modicum amount of pressure, where it feels a little bit uncomfortable, and it feels like you're meeting your edge, and there's where you're gonna meet a little bit of the trauma, and for some people, that trauma could be, that they were scolded in school for different ways that they expressed. Others, it could be really deep ways that they were unsafe to express at home, right? And as many of you know, I work with sexual traumas, so that is can be an ultimate lack of being able to express yourself, your own desires, and you lose it's like an erasure completely of your own ability to express needs and desires. And so meeting those places, I remember in my early 20s, it's like, I don't even know what I want, right? I don't, there's this big freeze. For me, I found it through playwriting and writing in general, journaling and writing poems. My plays were very uh, poetic and loving to dive into dialogue. I really understood dialogue more than prose off the bat, but I would go to prose or fiction writing often courses and I meet that edge of like not quite understanding how to express this in that way. And that would challenge me to express what I had gone through or what I was feeling in written form. For me, it was a little harder at the time. I couldn't dance. And so finding my ability to just stay there and breathe and notice, okay, this is really difficult. I don't feel comfortable. And there's something really interesting or attractive about that person. Even I can judge it all I want, but there's something attractive about the way that they're able to express. And why am I not able to express this way? Another thing I've noticed, whether it's to yourself or others, but people that do have a hard time expressing themselves feel the shame of that, right? And that starts to really compound. So when we can't express here, again, the shame lives a little bit more in our center and in our core and our manipura. I'm wrong. My identity and my very being in this body and the core of myself is wrong. That's shame. And sometimes that's because you've treated me this way, that must be so, that must be true. Because you've abused me, that must be true, that I am wrong, right? So, if I'm wrong, any way I move or express is going to be wrong. And it really brings up that, uh, that trauma, and it really brings up that inability to move any which way, right? And so then you freeze and you're stuck. Because if I take a move forward, if I take a move left or right, I'm going to be wrong. And then the shame starts to compound itself because I'm not taking a step. And that makes me wrong too. And it just layers and layers and layers of being wrong. Or I'm up against the wall and not able to dance. I'm wrong for that. I remember going into writers' rooms, even in my mid 20s. I was in my master's program for writing, and I would do everything I could not to speak up. I was fine with giving my written words, a little bit. That was also hard hearing other people read my written words. So afraid there would be a typo. So afraid of it that it often happened, right? And I was attracting it a little bit. Uh, this fear that I had of being called out for being wrong, being seen for an again imposter, or being seen as unworthy, which is what I really deeply felt. And then I was trying so hard to prove it through my words, but anytime my words, to be honest, were read out loud, or if I had to speak, even if it was for someone else's words, then I would get super beat red. You could talk to any of my colleagues back from then. I would just get super, super red. I was very soft spoken, hardly could speak at all, very, very shy. very different than the person I had become through yoga teaching. And it was through yoga that I started to build my own confidence and clear some of these pathways in order to project and to find the clear center of who I was and allow this to clear up my throat and come out. So, one of the effects of having a blocked, or I don't even like that word, but depleted Vishuddha chakra is deep shyness, not wanting to really be seen. Not being seen is, again, manipura. It's a depletion of manipura. So both of these get really um, depleted, and then the heart starts to collapse, and all of our feelings get bottled up, and they're unable to move, to be expressed. So to start to heal this, even starting to move a little bit in those centers through, again, physical movement and poses like in yoga, but also starting to meet the discomfort. And so taking a writing class, taking a dance class, leap into the discomfort a little bit. And, Laura talks about that. That discomfort might be taking the dance class, but then just watching, right? Watching the dance class and setting the goal. Okay, next time I'm going to go to class, or the next time I'm going to go a little bit into the steps. But for today, I'm going to watch. So oftentimes after assessments with our training program with yoga, people end up crying after they do it in this kind of blissful, kind of healing way, a little bit maybe just the nerves, obviously, of sharing yoga, but it's because they're sharing something that they deeply care about, and they've been expressing the whole hour that they're teaching that final assessment. They've been expressing that and trying to express it, and maybe not quite getting it right, but trying. And then the release, cathartic release that happens is very, very humbling. It's really beautiful to witness. It's part of that transformative process, I think, that most of us go through. Now, for some people, public speaking, they've mastered, or it's been a little bit easier, but for most of the population, this is the hardest thing to do. And to public speak on something that you deeply, deeply care about, that's even harder. So the closer it is to the heart, that heart chakra, and really trying to express from the gut yourself through the heart, what you really care about, what you really love, out through the throat, this is a huge challenge. And this is why the yoga teacher training is so important to self-development, in my opinion. Like, I feel like it could be a really seminal training to just really owning your system. And that process of becoming and clearing those chakras that we've been talking about, healing those. For me, that has been one of the biggest healings of going from trauma to being able to stand here today and share myself. And it's still a little bit nerve wracking. It's still a little bit difficult to do, but I feel really strong in doing it, which I couldn't always say. And for me, the healing came from putting myself in those positions where I had to find movement through here. Again, safe environments, modicum pressure, not overwhelming pressure, although at times it could have felt that way, to be honest. But looking back on it, processing it, it was pretty safe, and I found my way through. So then the question is, what's one little step that you could take? What's one small step? It could be, again, going to the local dance class. It could be instead putting on a dance on YouTube and doing it on your own. That's, what I was talking about with the journaling. It could be joining a writer's group, or it could be journaling on your own. You don't have to do it in front of people necessarily for it to be challenging. It could be more challenging to do on your own. But that this is an incredibly important to getting prana, getting energy flowing. And if it's not flowing, disease starts. Okay? there's disease in your body if the energy is not flowing. So, one of the things I'd like to talk about today, besides just the chakras and this idea of flowing, is the maha gunas. And these are the three, I like to start translating them as mother energies, the three mother energies. And that's because they are birthing existence, really, the way that we know it. And they're the three major energies, mother energies that create everything we know, including ourselves, including any physical material, any, molecules, air, space, all of it. It's creating in the yoga system. It's the foundation of existence as we know it. And so, what I would like to talk about is oftentimes these are put on a dichotomy. And so I'm going to talk about it. Some of you have heard me talk about this lots, but it's important here in expression, and I'll get there. But the first one is tamas. We're going to put that in a corner, tamas, Tamas. And it is the mother energy of slowness, stillness, heaviness. It is what allows you to go to sleep at night. It's what allows you to relax. And it's what allows you to turn off. It's what allows you to grow slower in your mind, your body, your spirit. This is really important. It creates structure. When things are slow and not moving and still, they are like the earth. So earth energy is really a part of this tamas. They are really stagnant. So, for example, this painting that I have here is very tamastic. It's not moving anytime soon, right? And here's the other thing, it's all relative, right? But heaviness, stillness, this is really deeply needed, but it can be an extreme, just like anything else, particularly when you're talking about the human, the human form. So, one of the extremes is, for example, sleeping too much, um, feeling really sluggish, unable to have much energy, very low in energy, slow or low blood pressure, depression, feeling really depressed. That means that there's an excess of tamas, there's too much of that being expressed in your being. And that's the thing that I want to talk about more, is that they're just being expressed, these energies. Now, there's another one, rajas. 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 And rajas is the opposite of that. It's movement. Okay? It's fast. It's active. It's really fiery. It's in its ability to create movement, like how quick the air is as well. And in excess, it's unable to sleep, right? Multitasking to an extreme. Manic, feeling a bit manic in your energy. Having a gazillion things in the head at once. Anxiety. High anxiety. This is rajas. And so, like I said, most people put these on a dichotomy. It's tamas and rajas, and you're being maybe pinged sometimes between these. And rajas is being expressed, and then tamas is being expressed. Here's the thing: they're just energies trying to express. And really, my foundation of this and other philosophies is your body's trying to find a homeostasis, and so it's going to maybe bounce into those extremes, or even for long periods be in an extreme to try to balance out something before it. So it's usually a consequence of something before it. And that could even be before your time um, or due to society, right? We live in a very Rajastic society, keep going, 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 produce, 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 produce. Very manic. And so you might be having a tamastic response to that, right? The consequence is like you don't freaking want to move one day. You just want to stay in bed all day. I meet that a lot with clients. And so these two big mother energies are just expressing through you. What happens oftentimes is we start to identify with that energy that's expressing. So I am depressed. I am a depressed person. I'm taking medication for depression, so I must be a depressed person. Versus this energy is expressing through me due to consequences seen or unseen. And that's what I try to help my students and my clients start to understand, because it was such an incredible revelation for me to stop identifying with these gunas as or with those states as, the full expression of myself, and see it as a natural energy that's expressing through me, trying to find homeostasis. Huge, right? Whether it's depression or anxiety. And it gave me permission to be okay with those, and then also some tools to balance those out. Now, I think what happens in yoga spheres that I've been in lately, and I want to stress a lot of yoga people don't believe the way that I do here, but this is how I have seen it or feel it to be true for my own yoga practice, and how I've seen it through a decade of yoga therapy clients. The third one is sattva, okay? The third one is sattva, sattva, sattva. And a lot of yoga philosophies that I have encountered start to put sattva right in the middle between the, tamas and rajas, and put sattva as the aim, as the goal. And there's some truth to it, because sattva is the energy of clarity, of um, calmness, lightness, lightness in weight, peace. And so in yoga, we do want to come to a homeostasis where we might be leaving with a little more sattvic energy than when we came. There's truth to that. And so a lot of people put it in the middle, and we're just trying to bring people back to the center and put sattva in the center. I like to think of it more like a triangle. Okay? It's a triangle. And sattva isn't necessarily any better than any of the other two. The issue is that we often get flung into the other two due to our society. And so we're needing more sattva. But I've seen clients that are primarily sattva and rajas and need tamas. Okay. An example of too much sattva, and again, I want to say I've asked this to yoga therapists, leaders before, and they say there's no such thing as too much sattva, but I think there is. An example of too much sattva is spiritual bypassing. Okay. What gets us to act, what gets us riled up, it may have a purpose. Okay. So, like, Rajas is wanting us to move, is wanting us to act. And there might be a reason to. If we stay in that peaceful harmony, we might not be honoring something that's actually happening that needs us to move. There's lots of ways in which that has been the case for our society, right? Where we're needing to act, or even within ourselves. Okay, I'm just going to calm down and not address that. Whereas the anger that's coming up is saying, no, freaking address it. Come on now. We need to take action. So we need the rajas. I also think the tamas. Whoa, slow down. Wait, let's get really heavy and slow down for a minute. Let's feel a little bit sad for a moment because this is really, really sad. Let's get depressed for a moment because we need to understand the fullness of the consequence of X, Y, and Z, the grief. So instead, I see it as a triangle, and we are searching for the middle, and we might get pinged a little bit through these different gunas. And really, where rather than trying to control them, I like to think about surfing them or letting them express through you with the framework and the observation and holding the whole at the same time that it is not you, but these energies expressing through you, and that they are going to help you balance out. There might be an exit ramp off that anger or that movement over to peace that might be nice to go into to help balance you out. There might be an exit ramp over to relaxation. Put it down for a little while to restore and rest. Okay. So it's this pinging of energies expressing, and then you're surfing. That's why surfing is so spiritual, right? You're surfing and letting these things express while making small choices to help balance that out through observation. And that's the skill in yoga. The Gita talks about yoga being skillful action. This is the skill of not getting over identified with the direction in which energy is happening due to consequences from our past, or it could be real direct past or from society's past, humanity's past, our ancestry's past. Not getting over identified with that, allowing it to express, maybe countering in certain ways that would support us. And also honoring it's just an energy expressing through me. Maybe there's a purpose for it too. Let's see. Let's see what that might be. Why is this anxiety expressing through me? If we start to see it as an energy force that's wanting to move something, okay, why? And having some time and space to do that. Sometimes we don't have the time and space to do that, and so we just need to counter. Fair enough. Counter with our yoga practice. So, transforming through expression for me has been about reframing what that looks like and starting to allow myself to express nature through myself and being less and less identified with that expression and yet feeling the freedom from it, getting true freedom through allowing nature to express through me. When we don't allow these things to express through us, we start to create deep inner conflict. So we say yes when our whole body and our whole system means no. We start to give silent treatment to try to control situations. We create real havoc in our relationships, and the conflict within our own self starts to show up in the conflict with our partners, with our children, with our parents, with those real intimate relationships. When we start to clear and move and work with these energies, then we're able to stay aligned when we're in those relationships a little bit more open and a little bit more available to allow the that flow. And then we're able to also then check in with what is the energy telling me? It's telling me that I need to stop, I need to rest, I need to pause from this conversation, or I need to really speak right now my truth, right? I need to speak this out. I need some space to do that. Or I can give you space and myself space, and I'm going to observe and be present and be available. That's the sattva, right? And it allows us to take a moment and say, okay, what needs to be expressed here? my restoration, my thoughts and expression. This Uddiyana Vayu is airy, it's fiery, it's again very rajistic. And it's coming like when we're speaking, like I've been doing for the last 30 minutes, when we've been speaking, it's generating a lot of energy, Udana, of that rajastic energy. Does that need to happen? Or do I need to just be present, be here, not resting, but I'm also not, generating a lot of energy, projecting a lot of my voice, expressing a lot, but I'm here and I'm peaceful and I don't need to say anything or, I want to observe and I want to hold space for you, maybe to express, whether that's a person or whether that's even witnessing nature and really becoming a witness. But it's not better to be the witness. The reason why we think it's better in our society is because we're so rajastic. Because it balances us. But we need action. Nurture loves action, loves creativity, loves expression, needs you to express. None of them are wrong. None of them are wrong. Your depression's not wrong. Your anxiety's not wrong. When we react from that place and we start to harm people, that's what we need to shift. And it's the behavior that's wrong, not you. I don't care who you are. You're not wrong. Nature has brought you here in this moment, in this body, for a reason. No one can be wrong in their nature, in their alignment. The behavior can be wrong, and it's reacting to a certain energy force that you have either this feeling of no control over and or this sense of you're a victim to it and you don't have any tools to work with that. And then you're also over identifying with that. And then the fears come of what that means, right? It all kind of tracks back into a fear. This is incredible healing, but a transformative way of starting to look at your energy, your way that you're interacting in your relationships, the way that you're interacting with the world. And so I invite you, a couple of assignments after this session, okay? 1, find a daily way to express that is a little uncomfortable, that does have that modicum amount of pressure. It could be for you journaling every day. If that's no longer uncomfortable, that's not it. It could be drawing a little image every day. I'm not a good drawer, especially those things where you feel the limiting belief and that you've created a real or acknowledged a limitation. I invite you to really go there. Like, I can't visualize. Okay, every day I'm going to sit for 2 minutes and try to visualize, visualize a mountain or visualize a river, whatever that is. It might be different every day. You might try the same thing every day for a week. It could be dancing. Okay, I'm just going to try 5 minutes, one song by myself in my room to dance a little. One small thing to try to express energy. If you find yourself interested, you could find something within these energies to express. If you find it really challenging to, speed up a little bit, that could be through dance, that could be singing, talking. I invite you to maybe go towards that. Nothing too overwhelming, okay? Remember, modicum amount of pressure and discomfort. Could be going to a live open mic. You don't go, but you're watching people. And then you're setting a goal sometime near future. You don't even have to set the exact date. I'm going to go up and read something or, um, sing a small lyric. A lot of my people that I really admire set themselves goals like this that were really uncomfortable. Lewis Howes comes to mind, and he's now one of the most renowned speakers and podcasters. But he started desperately wanting to speak, but terrified to do so, and so he put himself in a group, Toastmasters, to make that step and put himself in uncomfortable places to express, to start to heal. That was his journey. Yours is going to be different, but I invite you to do it, to start moving energy. First assignment. Second assignment is to start to observe these three major energies expressing in front of you and through you. So when you start to see something a bit more active or manic, just in the next day or two, I invite you to label it. Oh, that's the rajasic or movement energy. Oh, that's the tamastic or that's the earth slow energy. Oh, that's the peaceful, calm, blissful energy. When I say blissful, I don't mean happy. Okay, it means this kind of peaceful contentment. You start labeling them for yourself. And then, especially sometime this week, if you find yourself really in that place where you're judging or shaming yourself or someone else, try to reframe it in these energies. I really hate, oh God, I just wish I wasn't stuck. Oh, what is the stuckness? Is it stuck in, um, a pattern that is really manic, or is it stuck in a pattern that's really um, just things aren't moving? I can't get rid of this grief. I can't get rid of this, whatever it is. Stuck is often a real tamastic energy, but maybe it's a real fiery shame. I can't, oh God, I can't stand this and I'm going to burst. It's maybe rajasic. So starting to frame not only just little things throughout the next few days, but especially that one thing that might really jam you up, might really get underneath your skin. Start to reframe that in a major energy expressing through you. One of these three cosmic energies expressing. I hope this episode supports your expression. That is my main goal, is to support you as you travel through this world in this human system. I take a moment to bow to you in all that you're doing, all that you're being, to your soul. I bow to you. Thank you for your healing, for your transformation. Thank you for your presence with me. And please subscribe if you haven't already. Please share with a friend that might really enjoy or need this content. And I'll see you next time. Namaste.